Well, hi, I'm Rachel, and as you just heard, I head up digital at National Geographic. I am coming up on my 1-year anniversary at the company. I'm excited to share with you this morning a lot of what I've learned over that year and a bit about where we're going. I thought I would start actually with a video that gives you a sense of what it feels like to work at such a special place. So take a look.
This is not a border or a frame. It does not bind us or limit us. It is a portal, an entrance to the whole world. Every place, story, and passion lies right through there. This is where explorers and innovators go. This is the threshold of the next chapter of humanity. Join us. And together we will do more than see the world. We'll change it.
So as you just heard from the voice of God, or our voice of God, Morgan Freeman, National Geographic has been igniting the explorer in all people for almost 130 years. Essentially, that yellow border up there stands for transporting people to new experiences and helping them understand the world around them. So the question I want to tackle with you here this morning is, how do we take a revered 130-year-old brand and really make it relevant for audiences today? My kind of super simple answer to that is wrapped up in an Instagram story. Take a quick look at this.
Hello, my name is Charlie Hamilton James, and today I'm on assignment for National Geographic.
I love this Instagram story for so many reasons. It's impossible not to feel connected to what Charlie is experiencing. Like you're on the ground with him there, like that elephant is kissing or eating your face. And potentially I love this even more because Charlie made it himself. Charlie and over 100 other photographers of ours actually hold the keys to our Instagram castle. It's really their community platform. When I first learned that this is how we were managing our crown jewels, over 80 million followers, I thought the team was nuts. And then I realized it was actually kind of brilliant. We have the most incredible visual storytellers on the planet. Let's give them the tools to run with it. And that kind of platform intentional storytelling and really leaning into our DNA is how we think about everything that we do at National Geographic. So we think about our digital strategy in kind of 3 key pillars. The first is transforming that yellow border actually into a portal. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. The second is really transforming how we speak with our audiences and moving from a monologue to a dialogue. And the third, and this is insanely obvious, but we've got to get it right, meeting our audiences and our users' wants and needs. So what do I mean by transforming that yellow border into a portal? I really mean that our brand actually becomes our product principles. So for every piece of content that we create, every distribution technique that we employ, we're thinking about, does that actually drive exploration? And clearly what we can do today with technology was unimaginable 10 years ago, even 2 years ago. But that said, honestly, the kind of using new technology, using new ways to connect with audiences and push them has been part of what the company's always been doing. Take a look at the first wildlife photos ever published in the magazine over 100 years ago. I think my favorite story that I learned when I joined was that this was actually incredibly controversial. We had board members resign in protest because they felt that we were taking a revered science journal and actually turning it into a quote-unquote picture book. Well, how would they feel, over 100 years later, that we were taking millions of people on safari every single day? Safari Live, which is one of my favorite products that we do, we go live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on our website twice a day from the Masai Mara in Kenya. We send them out with guides, And this community has actually really formed around it to the point where we have fans on Twitter writing in with comments that they're actually spotting the animals before the guides can even recognize them. Just take a quick look.
We are back on the hunt with those cheetah females. They haven't moved. Mother and youngster, now they have. And she's coming. I can't believe that she's actually, that's not a, I mean, she's barely jogging. She's going towards the little one. David, you say maybe she's trying to confuse them. Quite possibly. She's certainly confusing me. Straight towards her.
It's like watching a sporting event. The passion you see from the fans around this is incredible. But that, to me, is a portal, because we're giving fans a chance. We're turning them into explorers themselves. We're giving them a chance to experience something they otherwise never would have. And we love doing this with partners as well. So just a couple months ago, we worked with Airbnb to give millions of fans a chance to really kind of wrap their arms around this once-in-a-lifetime natural phenomena with the eclipse. So 2 incredibly lucky fans got a chance to stay in this awesome Airbnb in Western Oregon, and we turned them into explorers. We paired them with a scientist, we paired them with a photographer, and sent them out to actually capture the first images of the eclipse. Then we also created a pretty robust live experience on Facebook and on YouTube, where we had hosts corresponding with our experts that were stationed across the entire path of totality. We saw tremendous engagement on this, and really it was, it's because of what we were doing. We were giving people a chance to actually experience this for themselves and dive in. So that's border to portal. Next, monologue to dialogue. This for us is really moving from speaking at our audiences to facilitating a discussion. And for me, this is really about how do we build a space where people can participate, where people can learn from each other and actually be inspired by each other. My favorite example of this is YourShot. YourShot is a product that we built a couple of years ago for our aspiring photographers, or kind of the amateur photographers that really are desperate to get even better and are actually insanely good already. Fast forward to today, we have this really robust creator community that's sharing hundreds of thousands of photos with us a month. To be clear, these photos are from our community. They're from the kind of prosumer amateur photographers. They are not from our experts. The way it works is we spark participation with assignments and with hashtag challenges, and then the creators will send in their work, and the feedback loop starts. And I use that word feedback intentionally. This is not just commenting on each other's work. This is really giving each other kind of constructive criticism. And they also get it from our experts, our in-house editors, as well as professional National Geographic photographers who are like gods to these folks. And what I'll say, too, is that you often hear about online communities that they can become pretty toxic, and that's not what's happening here in YourShot. It's positive, it's encouraging, and it's constructive. And that for us that's what we have to facilitate to really be in dialogue with our fans. And next, and I'll point out that this shot, too, was shot by a YourShot photographer. We felt the image was apropos for this theme. We've got to get really good at meeting our audience's wants and needs. For us, it's all about what is the job that we are doing for our fans, and what is the job that we are doing for each one of the communities, in kind of smaller groups of our fans on the platforms where they're consuming. So to start, we have to understand where our audiences are. And as Steve alluded to, we have a massive social footprint. So we have 350 million followers across social platforms. We have 25 million people who are spending time with us on our website every month. But in order to get, obviously, to make that meaningful, we have to understand how they're consuming there. I'm speaking to the choir on this, but obviously that social footprint is split across a number of platforms. And on the website, it's over 60% of that's now on mobile. We have 6.4 billion content engagements across our platforms. The team, while is incredibly proud of that, it's not what we're focused on every day. We're obsessed with being granular. We're obsessed with being granular about what is the right experience for even the right time of day on that platform. Because even on one platform like Instagram, what's going to work in an Instagram Live, and that's going to be much more personal, and then that's going to be very different than what works in a story, which is going to have a narrative and still be playful and personal, to what's going to work in the feed, which is going to have to be the majestic quality from us. And obviously, all of that's incredibly different from what we do on Apple News, from what we do on our web product. Let me give you one example of that. With Snap, we, a couple months ago, said, we've got to hit reset. And we restructured the team. We realized that we didn't really have a team. We were just kind of pulling resources from across the organization. And that was being reflected in the product itself. It kind of looked like a mishmash. And we leaned into the audience data and really wanted to have that inform our content strategy. The biggest insight was that what the Snap audience wanted from us was not emojis and not slang. They wanted National Geographic. They wanted our science content, our travel content. They wanted our photographers and our insane visuals, which is what you see here. This is part of the transformation. And they wanted our tone of voice. The other key thing that we wanted to experiment with on Snapchat, and this is kind of a thesis of ours, is that it's a moment in time where people want to feel connected. They want to feel more of a personal connection to the stories that you're sharing. So similar to what you saw with the Instagram story at the beginning, we're working closely with photographers to actually turn the camera on themselves so that they can tell a narrative that the fans feel close to. I'm going to show you a quick example of one. A photographer of ours, it's a really powerful story, was in Houston during the hurricane, I guess it was last month. Take a look.
It's getting pretty bad out here. This is my mom's driveway. I happen to be visiting my family in Houston, and this is what we're dealing with right now. It's getting worse by the minute.
If I didn't attach so much sentimental value to everything, I would just be okay with it.
We've got 3 dogs. There's one down there. And my mom's got her 19-year-old dachshund in a trash can. I'm literally 2 houses down from my sister in chest deep water. It is pretty intense. Okay, I'm about to swim.
So it was an incredibly powerful piece. I'm really proud of the team that we pulled it off. I will share, I wasn't sure if I was going to share this, but obviously we've been grappling with how do we as National Geographic respond to natural disasters, respond to horrific events happening. And what we've been leaning into is, again, what is the unique perspective we can offer as a brand? So for us, that's all about visuals. We're helping people understand what's happening in the world through photography itself, and then through the lens of our photographers, and then through science and facts. And we feel that that's what we can provide. The good news is on all of this is that it's on Snap, is that it's worked and it's working. We actually added over 3 million subscribers to our Discover channel over the last 3 months, which was a huge win for us. The loyalty is up significantly, and that was honestly kind of the #1 metric we cared about in this reset. And the revenue has come right alongside that. So that takes me to the end of the presentation in that, and I'll share one last thing. Over 50 years ago, the National Geographic Society funded a grant for a young scientist going out to study chimps in the wild. That young woman, Jane Goodall, went on to change the way we understand mankind. And probably the most fun part of this job and being part of National Geographic is that we still get to do that. The National Geographic Society funds over 500 grants for scientists and explorers every single year. And we, as a National Geographic media company, participate in that by funding 27% of our proceeds to the society. So it becomes this incredible virtuous circle of storytelling and exploration. So our job is to continue resonating with people, to remain relevant in their lives. And as you can tell, we are having a lot of fun doing that. And I think I will take some questions now.
Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael.
So it seems like a sort of through line in all of these different platforms has been
that focus on what the audience wants from you in that context? What process did you use to sort of figure out what that was?
I think the process is a great question. Thank you. To be honest, I think the process is kind of twofold. I think one is that things have happened somewhat accidentally, you know, and I want to be open about that. You know, even something like that Instagram channel, the reason why it belongs to our photographers, I mean, it's our channel, but that, you know, they're the ones who are facilitating it. That happened, they did that themselves. It was about whenever Instagram started, it was a couple months after that, a few of them got together, they all consider themselves part of the geographic. If you're part of the National Geographic photographer community and you're kind of really old school, you call it the geographic. You know, and they just started sharing their work together. And then that grew. And I think that process-wise for that, you know, I wasn't there then. I think we got pretty lucky that the company was willing to kind of facilitate that and kind of keep nurturing that. Then on the flip side, I will say, I think the last year, you know, we've been really beating the drum on using data and audience insights to inform our storytelling. And I use that word inform intentionally. It's not to dictate our storytelling. It's not to you know, have it driven off the data, but to say, okay, what exactly is working here? And then let's use that to kind of inform what our creative gut is saying. You know, it's a lot of work in digging into the analytics on the social platforms. We're really obsessed with, you know, the kind of jobs to be done methodology. And we're deep in work right now on jobs to be done methodology around our science content and our travel content to really understand fans of those kinds of stories that we're telling, both on our web product and then on our social products. What are we actually offering to them that is meaningful in their lives? You know, and it's not just about we're trying to dig in to understand, like, is there a utility that we're offering? Is it because we're making them feel a certain way? My hypothesis on that, on the travel side, we offer, our kind of voice on travel right now is very, you know, it's very much this kind of aspirational, dreamer type travel experience. You know, incredible visuals. It's not so much the kind of planning and going travel experience. We're not yet offering kind of those utilities. And I think that's what we want to figure out is kind of, okay, what is in there that's keeping people coming back to us? And then how do we really lean into that or go after different white space? Sure.
Rachel, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Snapchat,
sure.
Since it's in the news this week. And I'm curious. It seems to me that one of the real headlines here is that National Geographic discovered you don't need to pretend to be an 18-year-old as a publisher to find success in Snapchat. In fact, they might want you not to be that way. You don't have to draw hearts on everything to make an impact. So a couple of things. You mentioned the loyalty metric. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you're measuring loyalty in terms of Discover? I mean, I know a lot of Snapchat users who are barely aware that there are major media brands in Snapchat. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about how Discover works as a platform within Snapchat in terms of how it's really generating what loyalty means there and how you're finding people and what their behaviors are.
Yeah. I think we think about loyalty on Snap as two metrics. One is the number of users that are coming back every day or during that week. And then the how far you get through the edition. And the how far you get through the edition, you know, I will say when we did this initiative and press reset on our Snap strategy, we did that in conjunction with Snapchat. We went to them, they came to us. It was kind of, we were all rallying around like, this is not good enough yet. And particularly because, you know, Snap was seeing our Instagram and they're like, why are you doing that there and not here? And the number one metric that they were caring about the most, and that it helped us in how we were planning out even the team structure, was getting people through that entire edition. And I say that as far as the team structure, it's then like you might take you might tell a story then over 3 snaps versus what used to be just, one snap, swipe up, and see the entire story, and that has nothing to do with the next one. So now the way we've structured the team is we have kind of 2 story teams, and one of them is focused on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The other one's focused on the Tuesday, the kind of the off days, and they're owning that entire experience for that day, and it has to become like a holistic magazine. Even little details on there. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. Having the 3 buttons to show someone, to give someone a cue that there are 2 more pieces of content related to, to that one monkey story that you're telling. So that's how we think about loyalty, is really kind of getting people engaging all the time and then getting people all the way through the edition, which also has a lot to do with the revenue that you're going to generate from it.
That was my follow-up. How are you monetizing that channel? Are you using a Snapchat selling the interstitials for you? Are you selling direct into it? What are the ad formats, and where are you seeing traction?
Both. So we sell it and they sell it. When we've had success selling Snap, particularly within the context of what this ad product that we call The Moment, which is when you kind of get to take over a day across all of our social platforms, and then you get to take over kind of all of the space within Snap. So for example, like World Water Day, we partner with Stella Artois, and they took over the entire Snap channel as well as our other social accounts, and it was all about telling their stories within the context of our Snap experience. But we're selling the the classic kind of Snap vertical ad formats.
But by taking it over, you mean they actually took over, they represented all the content from National Geographic for that day in Snap?
They represented all of the ad breaks in there,
sorry.
yes.
Right. Okay.
And then we also, I will say, for example, that so the piece that you just saw on Hurricane Harvey, we are looking at that as a kind of new franchise of ours called Through the Lens. And obviously, it's through the lens of our photographers. We piloted that on Snap. I give the team a lot of credit. They've been doing, what they're calling kind of these content hackathons, where they're pulling in folks from across the organization. And they've been particularly partnering with our digital photography team. Finding photographers who are willing to turn the camera on themselves, and then we want to turn that through the lens into something that can be available on other platforms, and that becomes potentially we're out in market with that right now, very close to signing the first partnership, and that would make it kind of a sponsored editorial product.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Because I got like a zillion questions myself. So let's round out with monetization generally.
Sure.
Since you mentioned the need to be very platform specific, which seems to be the goal of most publishers, and have realized that especially across social platforms, you need to be native, you need to focus on platform. How does the profit and loss work there? How do you determine levels of an investment and what you're getting back? And do you consider these social channels profitable yet?
It's such a great question. I think in many respects we're working on transforming even the language and how we speak about these social channels, so that we're not thinking about them as social or marketing channels, but we're thinking about them ultimately as audience channels. So I'll answer that in a little bit with a few different pieces. Facebook is obviously it's the kind of center of all audience action that we have. So we monetize activity on Facebook through branded content activations. We also monetize activity on Facebook by driving those users into our web product. And we have about 22%, I think, of our traffic on our website is coming directly from social. And that is, so it's like Facebook is playing a huge role in how we monetize those eyeballs when they come to us through display and through video formats on our web product. And as far as something like Snap, we'll look at you ask kind of the P&L of a specific product, and whether the investment of that dedicated team we now have on there, that's something that we're in kind of constant conversation about. I'll be pretty frank about it. And on the one hand, it's definitely more than paying for itself right now. That for that specific team, the revenue that we bring in on that one product, we are looking to scale what we can get out of that team as far as new snap shows that we can push out, whether we have kind of pop-up Discover channels, and obviously scaling the revenue growth off of that one channel. And at the same time, we're working on, on really kind of wrapping our arms around how do we articulate what the marketing value of this is as well, because all of these channels serve as the audience engine for all of National Geographic's other products. So we're promoting and driving audiences to our television content. We're promoting and driving audiences to subscriptions to the magazine, and ultimately, the North Star vision that's hopefully not too far away, is turning all of this activity, driving them into a funnel for a paid product that we have to offer. So we've got, a lot of that in the works too, which is a big part of understanding the jobs to be done, because we feel like we can start charging people for some of these offerings if we understand what utility we're actually providing them.
One final question, and this might be a stumper, I'm sorry, but is there, since I know that National Geographic has always been good about scoping out those social platforms, is there a social platform that you guys are exploring or at least testing now that maybe the rest of us don't know that much about that we might want to look into? I guess the flip part of that question is, are we at a point where we now have normalized the social channels? The major players have revealed themselves.
Yeah,
and publishers can count on these channels for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I would say, it's interesting because obviously Facebook just bought that new app the other day. I forget what it's even called. Yeah, are we there? No. So it's not like we have scouts out there, kind of participating. We're not big on Musical.ly, for example. I would actually say that I think we've got to, we still have a lot of work to do to define what the role of each one of those social platforms is for us. YouTube, for example, it's still very messy, mishmashy for us. It's kind of historically been a big marketing site for our television channels, and we've got a lot of work to do to define what we want its purpose to be. And then I'd also say international channels. I think across Asia, probably in 9 months is when we can kind of really start focusing on, okay, what is our WeChat strategy? What are we doing online in Kakao, in Japan and Korea? Because ultimately, those are growth markets for us too. And as a global brand, we've got to show up in the right way.
Rachel Weber, thanks very much.
Thank you.